January 1st, 2010. The world enters a new decade not with a celebratory bang, but with the ominous sound of a digital and environmental dam breaking. We wake up in a civilization that is increasingly porous, where the boundaries between the private and the public, the terrestrial and the digital, are beginning to dissolve. The air is thick with the scent of crude oil and the static of leaked cables, a sensory warning that the fortress of information is under siege. There is a palpable shift in the global frequency. The information age is maturing into the age of exposure. In the depths of the Gulf of Mexico, a mechanical failure is about to trigger a biological nightmare. In the server rooms of an unknown location, a whistleblower is preparing to upload a cache of documents that will strip the superpower naked. It is the moment the system realizes it can no longer contain its own waste, be it carbon or data. Before the second quarter ends, a Caribbean nation will be leveled by the Earth's fury, and the sky over Europe will turn gray with volcanic ash events that will paralyze the global machine and force a realization of our profound fragility. The countdown has shifted from a march to a scramble. We are no longer just connected, we are submerged. The State of the Planet in 2010 is a study in saturation and fragility. We are living in the definitive app-centric awakening. This is the year Steve Jobs walks onto a stage and reveals the iPad, a device that many mock as a large iPhone, but which officially signals the post-PC era. We are no longer typing, we are tapping. The tech level is pushing toward the ubiquitous personal screen. The launch of Instagram in October proves that our lived experience is now a filtered feed designed for instant global consumption. We are obsessed with the visual archive, the ability to turn a mundane lunch into a piece of social currency. Economically, the world is a sovereign debt minefield. The Great Recession has morphed into the Eurozone crisis. Greece is the patient zero of a financial contagion that threatens to dissolve the European Union's dream of unity. In the United States, the Affordable Care Act is signed into law. The ACA represents the most significant social policy shift in 40 years, yet it ignites a partisan firestorm that will define the next 2 decades of American politics. The cultural mood is grotesque spectacle. We watch Lady Gaga arrive at the VMAs in a dress made of raw beef, a meat cloth metaphor for a society that feels increasingly commodified and exposed. Geopolitically, the world is a Potemkin village whose walls are being torn down by WikiLeaks. The release of the collateral murder video and the diplomatic cables proves that the state is no longer the sole gatekeeper of truth. The climate is sounding a toxic alarm. 2010 is the year of the Deepwater Horizon blowout, a 3-month-long bleeding of the Earth that proves our energy hunger has outpaced our safety engineering. We are a civilization of constant uploads, living in a state of high-definition exposure while the fundamental pillars of our economy and ecology are leaking from every seam. We are connected, voyeuristic, and finally realizing that the spark that changes the humanitarian trajectory of the century occurs in a flash of seismic violence. January 12, 2010. A 7.0 magnitude earthquake strikes Port-au-Prince, Haiti. This is the moment the global conscience is jolted into a state of emergency saturation. The destruction is not just physical, it is a total institutional collapse. Over 200,000 lives are snuffed out in a matter of seconds. This single event makes the rest of the year's focus on global resilience and logistical fragility inevitable. It triggers a digital philanthropy surge. For the first time, text-to-donate campaigns raise tens of millions, proving that the smartphone is now a humanitarian tool. This is the flame that exposed the great divide between the high-tech West and the developing South. It proved that in an interconnected world, a disaster in the Caribbean can paralyze the international diplomatic and aid systems. The shockwaves lead to a refugee and reconstruction crisis that we are still analyzing today. Why does this matter? Because it gave us the template for megacity failure. It proved that our urban centers, when built on structural poverty, are ticking time bombs. The disaster leads to a new era of satellite-driven aid and a fundamental shift in how non-governmental organizations operate. This is the moment the world's heart broke in real time. The world is no longer just a map of nations. It is a grid of vulnerability. And 2010 is the year we saw what happens when the grid is deleted. While the Earth is shaking in Haiti, the political architecture of the world is being dismantled by a server in a bunker. In 2010, Julian Assange and WikiLeaks released the Afghan War Diary, the Iraq War Logs, and Cablegate. This is the democratization of the secret. It represents the most significant intelligence breach in human history, stripping the superpower of its diplomatic invisibility. In the United States, the Tea Party movement surges during the midterm elections, a populist ignition that leads to a Republican landslide in the House. This is the polarization of the Republic. The passage of the Citizens United Supreme Court decision ensures that corporate speech is now unlimited capital, a financial saturation of the democratic process. Contrast this with the East, where the Shanghai Expo serves as China's coming out party for the new decade, a grand spectacle of rising hegemony. In Europe, the political chess is a bailout ballet. The IMF and the EU are forced to create the European Financial Stability Facility to stop the euro crash. 2010 is a year of transparency and trauma. From the leaked cable in Washington to the austerity riot in Athens and the red shirt protests in Bangkok, the global leadership is being forced to account for its hidden ledgers. It is a world where diplomacy is no longer a quiet room, but a glass house under a hail of data. The political moves of 2010 are about containment. The institutions of the world are building firewalls, both digital and legal, to stop the leakage of power. The Ledger of the Submerged in 2010 records a sequence of structural failures and environmental collapses that revealed the absolute fragility of our modern intersections. The year begins with the Haiti institutional erasure, not just a tragedy of rubble, but a total annihilation of the state's physical and administrative backbone, leaving a vacuum where a government once stood. This is followed by the Loki's Echo in Iceland. The eruption of Eyjafjallajökull becomes a geological embargo on global commerce. It is a reminder that a single volcanic plume can effectively delete the transatlantic flight corridor, freezing the movement of millions and costing the global economy billions in lost momentum. With the Deepwater Horizon hemorrhage, an industrial gallows in the Gulf of Mexico. For 87 days, the failed blowout preventer serves as a monument to corporate hubris, as an uncontrolled fountain of crude oil redefines the ecological baseline of the American coastline. Simultaneously, the Pakistan monsoon cataclysm submerges nearly a fifth of the nation's landmass, an atmospheric drowning that erases entire agricultural sectors and infrastructure grids. These are not merely weather events, they are systemic shocks that prove our climate defenses are dangerously obsolete. The structural lows manifest in the Smolensk aerial beheading, a freak aviation disaster that wipes out the upper echelon of the Polish state in a single impact, proving that power is as vulnerable to physics as any other matter. In the financial sector, the flash crash of May 6th sees the Dow Jones plummet nearly 1,000 points in minutes due to high-frequency algorithmic feedback, a digital heart attack that proves our markets are now controlled by ghost machines we barely understand. Parade stampede in Duisburg, where a failure in crowd logistics turned a celebration into a geometric trap, to the Great Russian heat wave that ignited thousands of square miles of peat bogs and forests, the Ledger of 2010 is a record of systems breaking. It is the part of the script where the modern world is revealed to be a series of leaking containers. Whether it is oil in the ocean, ash in the sky, or data in the cloud, 2010 is the year we realized the plumbing of civilization was failing. By the spring of 2010, the industrial overreach of the century reaches a point of catastrophic failure in the Gulf of Mexico. On April 20th, the Deepwater Horizon rig explodes, killing 11 workers and initiating an 87-day hemorrhage of the Earth. This is the environmental escalation that proves our technological ambition has outpaced our ecological safeguards. The image of the live oil cam, streaming the black blood of the planet into our living rooms, becomes the visual pulse of a global nightmare. This escalation extends far beyond the shoreline. It is a biological and corporate tremor felt across the global markets. BP's market value craters and the energy security of the West is called into question. Simultaneously, the Eyjafjallajökull volcano in Iceland erupts, sending a plume of ash across the Atlantic. This geological escalation grounds 100,000 flights, a total paralysis of the global circulatory system that proves a Stone Age event can still dismantle a space-age infrastructure. In the United States, the social escalation reaches a friction point with the Arizona SB 1070 immigration law, a legal ignition that sparks a national debate on borders and belonging. The foundations of global mobility are eroding as security checks and economic barriers become the new standard. We are witnessing a multi-front saturation. The volatility of the Gulf, the violation of the airspace, and the decay of the open border are all converging. The global system is no longer just stressed, it is undergoing a visibility crisis. We are living through a transparent disaster where the old controls, the blowout preventer, the flight path, and the visa, are being revealed as fail points. This period represents a total reevaluation of our systemic risk. In the shadow of the bleeding Earth, the highs of 2010 represent the breathtaking audacity of the human blueprint. This is the year Craig Venter announces the creation of Cynthia, the world's first synthetic cell. It is a biological miracle, the moment software becomes life. It is a reminder that while we are leaking oil, we are coding DNA. We are moving from reading the code of life to writing it. But the winds are also celestial and evolutionary. In 2010, the Neanderthal genome is sequenced, proving that modern humans carry the ghost DNA of our extinct cousins. It is a high-definition victory for ancient genetics, the moment we realized we are a hybrid species. We are also seeing the technological leap of the SpaceX Falcon 9. This is the year a private company launches and recovers a spacecraft for the first time, signaling the death of the government monopoly on the stars. In the world of human achievement, 2010 sees the Burj Khalifa officially open in Dubai. It is an architectural win, the tallest man-made structure in history, a needle in the sky that proves our vertical ambition has no ceiling. We see human resilience in the Chilean miners' rescue. 33 men pulled from the bowels of the earth after 69 days, a global spectacle of survival that proves our refusal to abandon is our greatest strength. Technologically, the win is the tablet. The iPad sells 3 million units in 80 days, proving that the species is ready to discard the keyboard for the tactile interface. We are building intuitive bridges that even a toddler can cross. Even the environmental high is found in the global commitment to electric infrastructure. The Tesla IPO in June 2010 proves that the market is finally betting on a carbon-free engine. These highs are the proof that our ingenuity is our survival strategy. We can code life, we can build to the clouds, and we can reclaim the lost from the deep. 2010 is the year we proved that the species is still transcending, even when the planet is saturated. The Ledger of the Submerged in 2010 records a sequence of structural failures and environmental collapses that revealed the absolute fragility of our modern intersections. The year begins with the Haiti institutional erasure, not just a tragedy of rubble, but a total annihilation of the state's physical and administrative backbone, leaving a vacuum where a government once stood. This is followed by the Loki's Echo in Iceland. The eruption of Eyjafjallajökull becomes a geological embargo on global commerce. It is a reminder that a single volcanic plume can effectively delete the transatlantic flight corridor, freezing the movement of millions and costing the global economy billions in lost momentum. With the Deepwater Horizon hemorrhage, an industrial gallows in the Gulf of Mexico. For 87 days, the failed blowout preventer serves as a monument to corporate hubris, as an uncontrolled fountain of crude oil redefines the ecological baseline of the American coastline. Simultaneously, the Pakistan monsoon cataclysm submerges nearly a fifth of the nation's landmass, an atmospheric drowning that erases entire agricultural sectors and infrastructure grids. These are not merely weather events, they are systemic shocks that prove our climate defenses are dangerously obsolete. The structural lows manifest in the Smolensk aerial beheading, a freak aviation disaster that wipes out the upper echelon of the Polish state in a single impact, proving that power is as vulnerable to physics as any other matter. In the financial sector, the flash crash of May 6th sees the Dow Jones plummet nearly 1.0 points in minutes due to high-frequency algorithmic feedback, a digital heart attack that proves our markets are now controlled by ghost machines we barely understand. From the Love Parade stampede in Duisburg, where a failure in crowd logistics turned a celebration into a geometric trap, to the Great Russian heat wave that ignited thousands of square miles of peat bogs and forests, the ledger of 2010 is a record of systems breaking. It is the part of the script where the modern world is revealed to be a series of leaking containers. Whether it is oil in the ocean, ash in the sky, or data in the cloud, 2010 is the year we realized the plumbing of civilization was failing. 2010 is a mandatory chapter in the history books because it represents the death of the secret. This was the year the invisible world became visible. What died in 2010 was the assumption of privacy. Between Instagram's filtered lens and WikiLeaks' raw data, the world realized that everything is being recorded. What was born this year was the mobile reality. The iPad and the app economy proved that computing was no longer a task, but a lifestyle. 2010 mattered because it was the year the future stopped being hidden and started being streamed. It proved that a synthetic cell could be designed, a private rocket could reach the stars, and a leak could dismantle a superpower's foreign policy in a night. We interpret 2010 as the year the analog seal was broken forever. The data saturation, the environmental fragility, and the social transparency were no longer theories. They were the environment. 2010 is the year we stopped protecting the perimeter and started living in the open. It was the year of the saturated truth, where the physical leak and the digital cache finally merged into one unified exposure. How does 2010 dictate your life right now? Look at your biotech health ID. The synthetic biology and customized medicine you use today are the direct descendants of the Cynthia cell created in 2010. The commercial space economy, where you can buy a ticket to orbit, is the legacy of the SpaceX Falcon 9 success 16 years ago. The political reality of 2026, the polarized republic and the corporate-funded populism, is a direct result of the Tea Party surge and the Citizens United decision of 2010. We live in a world where visual status is the primary currency, a system that was template-built by the Instagram launch and the Gaga spectacle. The climate policy of today is the legacy of the Deepwater Horizon disaster and the Pakistan floods. We live in a world where tablet computing and mobile-first infrastructure are the only options, a reality that was validated by the iPad revolution. Even your media, the whistleblower culture, and the real-time disaster stream was hardwired in that year. You aren't just watching history. You are living in the saturation that was opened in 2010. The leakers of that year are the history of today, but their exposure is still running our world. 2010 was the year the seal was broken. We found the code of life in the lab, but we lost our safety in the Gulf. We built the tallest tower, but we watched the oldest secrets spill onto the screen. It was a year of the exposure and the exhaustion, a chapter where the species looked at the submerged truth and decided to record. The archive is closing on the year of the iPad and the oil spill, but the vault is just opening on the year the fuse would truly ignite. Join us for the next exposure, 2011. The world is awakening. If this year surprised you, challenged what you thought you knew, or reminded you of something you lived through, leave a comment with what it meant to you. If this series helps you understand the present through the past, consider liking the video. And if you want every year exposed, subscribe to the channel. History isn't just something we watch, it's something we interpret, and something many of us lived through. Another year exposed is coming soon. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter.